Hey, what's up, good people? How you doing? Welcome back to Stock Up with Larry Jones. I have a friend here, and we're going to talk about quantum computing, something that is the most misleading sector, if you ask me, with the rise and fall. And then you have the government saying that they want to invest in it, and then it rises, right? And then you have someone like Kramer on CNBC every single day for a month saying it is garbage, okay? So I got my friend here, Stocks with Josh. Stocks with Josh, go ahead and if I can bring you in, there you go. Say hello to the people and let's just dive right into it. We don't even need this to be long. We just want to help you guys with your decision making, and we're just going to dig, and I'm going to tell you what I think, and he's going to tell you what he thinks. Go ahead and introduce yourself,
Yeah,
Josh.
well, I want to kick things off, Larry, with just acknowledging that nobody has done the quantum stocks better than you.
Thank
You
you.
were on them earlier than anybody else. You held them longer than most, and here you've pivoted. And this type of thing that I count on you. I've watched you for years, and we talk about our own personal trading, and it's the idea that sometimes you've got to let it go, and
Let it
and
go.
this thing has run up. You didn't jump ship at 100%. You didn't jump ship at 200%.
Nope.
You kept holding this, but
Yep.
eventually the charts begin to tell a story, and the fundamentals, that were never really there for the quantum stocks begins to just become um, something you cannot overlook. And so the first thing that I just want to say to your audience, and thank you for having me on today,
Hmm.
is this is exactly the same thing that happened with the miners a couple years
Yes.
back.
Yep.
When they were really hot and they were pumping, you rode them up, but eventually they cooled off and they ended up spending a lot longer moving down and moving sideways than anybody thought they would. And for the longest time, I remember reading in your comments section, people hounding you for the next fresh update on when are we going to get back into the miners.
Right.
And, you had moved on to quantum stocks and other
Yes.
things that were running.
Yep.
And, now does that mean that you and I could absolutely say that these won't have another pump? We can't say that.
Nope.
Obviously, we don't have that crystal ball. But I can tell you that if you rode this journey with Larry from the time he first started investing in these and emphasizing them, you got the chunk of it. You got
Yes.
the chunk of it, okay?
Hundreds of percent.
You got the best part of it. Now, if you get any more because you're dying hard, then it might just be that you get lucky if you get any more, because the overall story has come and potentially gone. And it
Right.
doesn't mean that you strike these off your watch list and you ignore them from this point forward. There'll come a point in time in which these move into decline and maybe despair, and then reaccumulation or sideways consolidation, and then there'll come a time when they heat back up. Now, Larry, the markets are still hot,
Right.
but we've both been witnessing a huge spike in volatility, which means
Yes.
that folks don't have patience to be in these ultra high risk plays. What makes this an ultra high risk play is that they don't have money. And I've said it so many times on my show, Larry, that the only thing that causes stocks normally to go up, or the only thing that should cause stocks to go up, is increasing revenues, and the second thing is just as important, increasing profit margins. Because sometimes
Yes.
the revenues will go up, the profit margins will shrink, and the analysts don't have any confidence in the leadership because of it. They need to see both, expanding at the same time. We don't have that with any of the quantum stocks, and there are ways. And I'm not going to do the whole show. I'm not. There are ways of playing this. If you really believe in this sector, there's ways of playing it more safely.
Well, I can tell you right now that that way right now is going to be having patience. You're going to need patience to play this. And Josh, you did a great job. And you got to understand, you said that right. So I'm going to go here, Josh, and I'll be right back to you. I want to show you guys something. Now, this is IONQ, another quantum stock, right? This is what he's talking about. And I've said it all of the time. This is a swing trade, right? Look at the revenue and look at the income. right? We can see here net profit margins. You see that? Negative 1.58. You can see that, right? Those
Yep.
are millions, millions. Look at the EBITDA, negative. And you go on quarter after quarter after quarter negative, but you could see that this was going on. And if I had the chart up on INOQ, you could see that what volume and momentum was going up. And that's why we stayed in it. But I'm just going to tell you guys, the way down is long and hard if the government does not do this quote unquote deal. Now, Josh and I discussed, and I'm just going to tell you, even if the government do a deal with, what were they talking about? $10 million?
$10 million
Okay.
one time.
One time, $10 million. So now what the government is going to do is they're not going to qualify this stock the way we do. We're paying for forward earnings. We're paying ridiculous based on a ridiculous PE. The government is going to say, nope, you're not worth that. You don't even have any revenue. You're worth this much. You guys watch Shark Tank. So they're going to devalue the companies to even get a bite or a piece of the pie. And that's further going to devalue the company.
It's going to
dilute everything. But Larry, how did you guys saw, I showed it to you. Josh, I'm going to find that while I'm talking. I just got to pull this up because one of these stock, as you know, I made QUBT. I made 1,700%. Okay. I cashed out 1,700%. Right. And on the last Thursday, I started selling them all. And I sold one, and I showed the family that I showed one. And when I cashed it out last Thursday, I was still up 508%. Okay. And so what I'm telling you guys is we rode this hard. We rode this pony hard, right? We went to the bank, we rode this up, and then what happened? If I was a bank robber, Josh, this is all I'm going to say. I'm going to rob the bank and I'm going to get out of Dodge. But you know what Day Day and Pookie and them, the dummies that shouldn't be bank robbers, they go and rob the bank, right, Josh? And then they go into the room where the workers hang out at and they see a sandwich and they eat the sandwich. And then they catch the itis and then they fall asleep in the bank with the money. And that's what, Josh, that's what some of these people are trying to do. They're itching to give their money back. So now Josh and I are going to show you, I was trying to find that. Josh and I are going to show you where you need to be careful even with this government deal. Even with this deal from the government, you need to be careful. And I'm telling you guys, I'm not in a rush to get back in it. Well, I showed it on my video 2 days ago. I was up 508% on Rigetti, not the warrants, just Rigetti. I was up massively on the warrants, but I'm not touching it right now. Now, Josh is going to go ahead.
Can I comment on that, Larry?
Yeah, please.
So the idea is that the government's going to invest in these, and the number of $10 million was thrown out. Now, if they had put a B on that instead of an M, I might have been impressed. Yes. But just going over Rigetti's numbers, these guys are having a revenue that's under 10 million. Okay. And they are spending upwards to 70 to 80 million. Okay. So them getting $10 million one time doesn't do anything for them. And even if they were to get that 10 million promised every single quarter, it would bring a little bit of stability to the fundamentals, but it still wouldn't solve their problem. That it's not profitable, even though they're making some money. It's that they're spending way too much money, and so the
Let
government.
me show you this too when you finish.
That news isn't enough. It's not enough to cause these to keep going higher.
And you're right. And here's one of the reasons why it's not enough. I'm going to pull this up so you guys have to understand. So look at this. I'm gonna come right back to you, Josh, and we're gonna head to the charts. We're not gonna make this one long. This is Rigetti, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you go down here, you can see the PE, which I always tell you guys, it's a warning when it's not listed. The market cap, this is a $12.83 billion company. Okay? So let's just call it a $13 billion company. Now, a $13 billion company, Josh, that means that $10 million to a $13 billion company, it's not a huge bailout. Okay, it's not, guys. It's just not. And I'm just going to show you this. And there's a reason why I want to show you guys this as soon as I find it. There it is. So I want you to look at this. Let's go to Rigetti. Now, I had just, you see these warrants, these RG, the Rigetti warrants here? This was just me coming back and snatching the crumbs off the table. At one point, I was up 900% on these Rigetti warrants. But look at the Rigetti stock, Josh. You can see that?
Yeah.
508%. See that? Now, QUBT.
509.
Yeah, 509. Now, QUBT, this is after I got back in, after I cashed out 1,700% on QUBT. Not the warrants, the stock. You remember that, Josh? That was the end of last year or earlier this year. And then QBTS. This is after I got back in and still made 159%. You guys see that? And then, so what I'm telling you guys is I knew when it was time to get in. I was talking about these stocks. I brought them to the family way before CNBC.
Yep.
Yeah. And so now the party's over. You guys know that.
Yeah, can I send a message, Larry, to your people? Now, listen, guys, here's what I'm telling you. I've watched this man get the miners before they took off. And then eventually, when they had peaked out, I watched him jump ship. I watched him get the quantum stocks before anybody was talking about him and run them up. Both times, after he began to take profit, which is actually part of what we do on Wall Street, the folks didn't like it. Matter of fact, I know there's going to be negative comments potentially on this video simply because, you know, he appears to be turning his back on these, but he's not. He's locking in the gains.
Yes.
You want me to take him to the charts, Larry?
Yes. I want to say this before we go to the charts. Just like Oklo, I believe in quantum computing. Now, this is going to sound crazy. I believe in quantum computing. And when I see an opportunity to get back in, then I actually will. Now, we're going to have Josh, the chart master, come in. But I want to show them what I did today, Josh, because everybody didn't see it. Okay. So while the stock was going up, I did a put. Matter of fact, let me show them this. And I showed this on my video earlier. While the stock was going up, I did a put on QBTS. And I called it back down today to this point, okay? And to which it hit. I did a put while the stock was going up. And we know that you are not supposed to go against the trend, right? Trade the trend. We know that. But I did a put just to test it out. And in that put, I learned a lesson, right? I'm going to pull that put up, guys. We didn't know we were going to be doing this. So I am coming. I got a million things on this phone. And I want to show you guys this. And then we're going to go into the chart and show you guys where we think this could go or come down to. Now, look at that. That is a put that I did, right? And that's that. It's that. Josh, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to find this. And then I'm going to bring up your screen. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. There you go.
Okay, I'm going to keep this really simple, guys. First off, I want to just talk about some very basic charting. This isn't wizardry. We're going to go to the basics. On the right of the chart is the volume range visual profile, and this shows you where the majority of supply is. And right down here, it's at $11.50. This is where the majority of buyers piled in. Okay. And when you get above $19, you can see that these bars on the right-hand side, they practically disappear. And what that means is if it goes up and cuts up quick, which it did, these are weekly candles. It took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, a month and a week. And this thing, when it broke out, which was a huge moment because it broke above its previous all-time high, it exploded up almost, I think, around 200%, hitting near $60. But because it didn't build that structure along the way, it sort of just shot up like a rocket. It makes it all the more easy that when it begins to fall, there's no support levels on its way down either. It can really come all the way back to its breakout place. And I'm going to share this statement, and some folks are going to think it's too simple, but the bottom line is what used to be resistance, which was right here, needs to be proven as future success, which is $19. Now, we're not entirely done with this up move. All we've gotten so far is essentially a couple red candles. I've lost my chart. Let me restore this. We got a couple red candles. Now, in that scenario, when stocks begin to pull back, they don't normally just fall all the way back. There's got to be something maybe far more significant from a catalyst or news perspective or a macro event that might cause them to flush and keep flushing. They're going to find support along the way. The areas of support that I've got identified on the chart, the first one, probably the most important, is this $38.81. I had that marked as a stop loss zone when this stock ran up. This was my spot that I wouldn't let it fall below without locking in some gains. But what you've got beneath that is 31, beneath that is 19, and beneath that is $11.50. And so if you're, I know Larry, right? He's going to be looking for this to move out of distribution phase, and distribution phase is going to have some up and down movement. Okay. What distribution looks like is it attempts to make its move back up, but it fails. It comes back down and typically makes a lower low. Then it attempts another move up and fails, and it comes back down and makes a lower low. And then in a bad moment, it can have bigger drops. But I am expecting this to attempt to go back to this bull run that it was in. The other thing that drives these types of moves, Larry, is the fact that that people will begin to load up shorts. And then what can happen is the same thing that happened today, which is it gets a positive catalyst, and then they panic. And to close a short position from borrowed stock, you have to buy the shares to close out the position. And that is what can cause those additional waves where it goes back up briefly but fails to make a new high. And so I wouldn't say that Rigetti is entirely out of its bullish trend. These are two bearish candles after 6 extremely bullish candles. But I think largely at this point, it's hard to justify buying at this level if you hadn't bought down here. I think that if you're a really conservative buyer, you're going to see, I'm going to predict that we will likely come back and test this 31 level and bounce back up into this higher range. But we don't have to. We could cut through it like a knife. And if you're a very conservative long-term investor and you think Rigetti is going to have another move, you're going to be looking at these levels like 19. And if 19 fails, remember, all the real transactional base occurs here at around $11.50. And yes, it can absolutely come back there. And then there's going to be people like Larry and I that are going to begin to nibble again long-term.
Yep. I want to show them this. Now, Josh is the chart master. I just want to keep it real. Josh is the chart master. Josh, this is what I was looking at before we even talked. Straight fall, like nothing. Just straight fall. This is the zone, Josh. This is not the zone that I will begin to buy. This is the zone where I would even think about starting to accumulate. And this is a zone that, and we're down here 15 down to 14, what I would even think about accumulating. And then I got a line here struck at 1177. So we're close, right? But this break, it's just a free fall. This is what I see for Rigetti. Then I saw something just now at QUBT. Look at QUBT, right?
Yep.
D-Wave. This fall, just before this news right here, this fall, Josh, we were on a free fall. Right when I sold, literally 43%. Day after day after day after day, just a straight fall. And if it could fall consecutively that much, I was just looking at this. Let me go to a bigger time frame. I just saw this, Josh. These are the lines I had on the way up. See that, Josh?
Yeah.
I just saw this when I zoomed out. These are the lines that I had on my way up at 13, 17, 15. Should I say 18, 17, and 15 QBTS D-Wave. These are the prices I was accumulating on the way up. And then it ran all the way. It mooned. That's a massive, Josh, this is a massive move. That's 200%.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
insane. And it's not just insane, it's unsustainable to something that has no revenue. Yeah, Larry, but you bought, right? But you bought. Meanwhile, we have this gentleman every 5 minutes. It's almost like he's getting paid every 5 minutes. Let me see if I can get this to play. Where's the volume? There we go. Okay. What's going on here? So you got Kramer. I'm just going to leave it right there because you got Kramer. I don't know why it's not playing. But anyway, Josh, you got Kramer every 5 minutes, every single day saying that this is trash. Quantum computing is trash. You need to go with these bigger companies. And, he is right. There is no revenue, guys. There's no revenue on these companies. But I wrote them. Why did I write them? And I know you guys are going to ask, yeah, Larry, but why did you hold them? Because I saw the momentum, Josh. I saw the momentum that people were piling in, and you can see the volume and the momentum. So as long as there were momentum, I stayed in the trade. When I got over 100% in Rigetti, I started to sell. But guess what? The people were piling in. Momentum was piling in. So I stayed, and then it went to 200. And then I thought I was going to sell. Then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. At one point, I was up 800%. I took some gains. And then QUBT, I got in and rolled that up 1,700%. That was insane. But one of the things I'm not going to do, Josh, is overstay my welcome, even though I believe in quantum computing, but just not this much, this quick. So I wrote it up. It was a swing trade, and then I wrote it down. And you have to know the difference between a swing trade and an investment. Take it from there, Josh.
Yeah, well, I think that at the right price, quantum stocks look interesting enough to hold for a decade. But the key thing there, Larry, is at the right price. I mean, like I said, if this thing came back to $10 or $11, I believe there'll be additional waves of interest in quantum computing stocks.
Yes.
And I want to be very clear because some people are going to watch this video, and let's just say that quantum stocks rip tomorrow, and they're going to be like, "Oh, Larry and Josh were dogging the quantum stocks."
Yes.
Guys, I've shared this many, many times. Okay, when you begin to understand the way that price action moves, you understand that it moves in waves, and if the stock is going to bleed off, and let's go back to, for example, back in the day, EVs were the best technology innovation in the world. And Neo was going to go to 100, 110, 150, $200. Like, it was just never going to stop. That's what people
Right.
believed. And they kept buying it all the way up. But eventually it had this very, very slow death where it just kept coming down, pushing back up momentarily, and everybody thought that it was back on the table, but then it would just make a lower swing. And it's done that ever since 2021. 2022 was the beginning, and it really never stopped doing that. And so, what I'm saying is that these may have some waves which give them some green candles, but very likely in this extreme AI rally moment, very likely the tops have been in. And I threw this out in my video when covering Rigetti today in the Stocks with Josh page, that it's absolutely possible under the right circumstances, if people get too bearish, they load up too heavily and attempt to short this, and another positive news story comes out, some breakthrough, it's very possible that this could rip again. But that would be for the smart investors who didn't get out when they should. It would be an opportunity for them to lock in some profits. The big move, the breakout parabolic move, I believe is in the rearview mirror, Larry. And if you get a pop in the stock off of a news story like you saw today,
Yeah.
you may want to consider that. And
Taking
if
some
you bought
profits.
$10 and you want to see it ride up and ride all the way back to potentially $17, and you'll buy some more and you're going to hold it for a decade because you believe that quantum computing stocks are going to be
That's the move.
truly the next best thing, then you're fine. You don't got to do
Right.
nothing.
And that's, as you can see, I'm doing the same thing. I showed you where levels are where I consider buying, but it's buying and holding at that point, and letting these stories play out. Okay. So this is what I was trying to show them, Josh. I'm going to go here. This is what I was trying to show them. This is what I did today on D Wave.
Nice
While
move.
it was going up, I shorted it while it was going up. And that's what I would say is the safer play right now. Short, I would buy the dips, sell the rips if I was aching to get back in. But I've learned how to be patient, right? And right now, why is it up today, Josh? A story. And
Potentially
a
not even true story.
unconfirmed, exactly, an unconfirmed story. So I'm not putting my money at risk for an unconfirmed story. So, not to get political, I'm doing a tariff on China, right? And then the next day, me and she were going to work something out, blah, 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 blah. Tariff on, tariff off. Tariff on, tariff off. You guys know the taco trade, right? And your money is being whipsawed on these trades. That's my only point. Your hard-earned money is being whipsawed on these trades. I have never seen this market whipsawed so much off of a tweet. Have you, Josh?
No, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
And so you're risking. Go ahead.
Well, no, I just want to give people a clue, because here's what likely could happen. I actually am anticipating here in November that Donald Trump will work out a trade deal. Now, whether or not that trade deal will stick, I don't know. But I think that the market is going to get potentially one more really big pump moment, because the fear of the tariff war will be taken off the table. But I think it's going to be a sell the rip, right? And then we might fade into the end of the year and have a decent correction, not a terrible correction, but a decent correction. That could be anywhere between up to 10% or even 20%. But I'm just going to say 10% for now, off of the highs, which really isn't that big of a deal. And then I think that the bull run continues in 2026. At least at the moment, that's my general view. But Donald Trump can work something out, and people could feel with the fact that we're getting rate cuts that we're back to a risk-on environment, and these could be given a breath of fresh air. They can be given an injection of hopium, and they could rip again. Let me show everybody, Larry, something in the charts that they need to be watching out for, okay? Because this is a technical truth. I'm going to take you guys back to Rigetti. So the way that this works, let's say we don't know exactly where this is going to pivot. let's just say that today's dip down here was the pivot. It stays above $38. There's a reason why the $44 mark is on my screen, because this is the closing price of the last green candle. Okay, which means that that a candle has to close higher for this to continue in a bull move. Now, what often happens in situations like this is that they don't. What often happens, let me pull up the right tool.
Now you
What
said
often
a
happens,
candle. Is it? Should it be a green candle has to close, or red candle, or just
yeah, it would
a
have to
candle?
be, yeah, it would have to be a green candle to get back up here because we've fallen on these red candles. But if we can get a candle to close above this $44, then the market would interpret that as a continuation of this move. But more than likely, this, even if we were to get up here to $44, this is where you would begin to see more active sellers. Okay. And so that's going to be the kind of the thing I want people to keep their eyes out for. If the only way that this move actually goes back to being on an upswing is initially it's got to get above 44, and then it's got to get above this doji price of around 46. And there's not much of a difference in price there, but both of those are resistance levels. And so if this were to wick up into this zone, but the body of the candle were to close back beneath 44, then again, Larry's strategy of shorting or buying puts on every green candle at this point until we get that full correction makes the most sense. The only time that that would come into question, Larry, is if we did close and open a candle above 44, because that would mean that this momentum trade here is back on. And until it can show us that price action, the current trade is moving to the downside.
And watch this,
That,
Josh. I'm sorry. Were you finished?
no, that's it.
So look at this, Josh. This is the 1 day on these, right? Nice gains for 1 day, right? Look at what happened over the week, right? We have to zoom out. So even though it had this bump on this news, it hasn't regained the week's high. And to me, that is a different type of charting that shows me that based on this big news that the government may buy in and we couldn't regain the week's highs, that means that we have a lot more downsides. And Josh,
I agree with you.
you agree? Get
I
prepared to
do.
be shocked. Look at this. Now, guys, take that in. 1 year. Look at that. Rigetti is up
Wave.
3,100%. Rigetti's up.
Yep.
Okay, so there's bubbles and there's impossible bubbles. Now, I'm going to tell you this. The quantum computing bubble is way bigger than the AI bubble. Way bigger. I just showed it to you. We have an AI bubble, yes, but the quantum computing bubble got big fast. It front-ended. So do you believe in the technology? Yes, I do. Just like I believe in nuclear. I believe in Oklo. I'm looking to get back into Oklo. I wish these would cool off so I can get back in so I can be in them long term. But you got to understand time frames and what's happened. Right now, they're swing trades, no revenue, right? I got in them and I'm like, okay, at the price that I got in them, I'm like, I'm going to hold these. And then they exploded. They exploded. So much to the point, Josh, you are my witness. I would literally call Josh and goes, is it crazy for me to be concerned that I'm making so much money? Right? Me and you were talking about that, Josh,
Yeah.
right? Like, when is this market going to cool down? This is ridiculous. I wake up every morning, I'm up $18,000, $23,000 I'm like, when is this going to stop? And that is a crazy position to be in, but you know that is overinflated. That's all. So like he said, there could be one tweet or one news story, even by the time you see this, and these things could take off again. But that doesn't mean they're worth what the price is right now. That's all we're saying. And if this news, like I said on my video earlier today, brought your stock up to where you're green. If you're not taking profits, please set a stop loss. And that's not 100%. Because if you set a stop loss, the reason why your stop loss doesn't trigger is because there's no buyers. Remember, someone has to be on the other end to buy it. And if they don't want it, that it's going to blow right past your stop loss. Okay? So what do you want to say to the people in
Oh,
closing?
I think that's a great visual and a great reminder that it's not just, automatic that the house buys it when it's time for you to unload it. There has to be a buyer, and that's where you get these price candles that are really big. Those are called expansion candles because the price is going down and nobody's buying it. So the candle gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And we just had two mammoth expansion red candles on these. And as Larry's demonstrated in this video, that the price went up. And the only thing that he thought is, let me start building a short position, not it's back to the up move, right? And that's an elementary way of viewing things, is to not to recognize when things have changed. And like I said, nobody's done it better than Larry in the quantum stocks. And honestly, I follow people. I'm aware of a lot of different traders. Nobody did it better than him. So if he's selling quantum stocks and focusing on shorting them, I think that that's a message that most should, because nobody's on top of the momentum stocks the way Larry is. And he's telling you that he's no longer bullish. And he's coming out against the grain and telling you every rip from this point forward, I'm going to be shorting it. So that's the bottom line.
Yep. All right, guys. Hey, listen, if you want to really learn and know how to, think for yourself, I'm going to try to hit this. There you go. Stock Up You is where you want to learn and you want to earn. Even my man Josh makes quite a few appearances in Stock Up You. And come and learn and earn with us. And we just decided, if I can find you, Josh, this thing took me so far up. Let me find you. Hey, Josh, people don't understand. Sometimes you go live and these computers are doing stuff. It's just doing some crazy stuff right now. But I'll find you in a minute. There we go. My thing was rolling. It was just scrolling. And I couldn't find the right thing to click on. It just went brrr. So, hey, guys, we didn't plan this. I called Josh. I was on my way home. And I said, you know what? Hey, I want you to do jump on and let's talk about quantum computing. He said, I just released a video on quantum computing. He said, but let's do it. We just want to help you guys. Listen, anything we say is not a suggestion for you to buy, hold, or sell. Any decision that you make for quantum computing or any other stock or any other crypto is totally 100% yours. We are just telling you what we see and what we are doing. Your decision is yours. So you can't come back here and say, Larry told me to sell and the thing quadruples from here, right? But on the other hand, if it falls, you can come back and say, you told me. Okay.
I love that, Larry.
All right. Josh,
Can't
what you
argue with
got
that.
to say in part?
I love it. And one of the reasons why I jumped on with you tonight is because I think this message is important. You and I speak to, tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, and we see people get stuck in stuff because they got caught up in the story. They were trading the story and not the stock and not the stock price. And I'm really hoping that people can take a real sober view. And you say, well, hey, I'm down 5-10%. Listen, being down 5 or 10% on these stocks, when I just got done telling you and Larry got done telling you that we would be interested buyers below 19,
Yes.
as low as 15 and 11,
Yeah.
it's a lot better than being down 70, 80% on your position. So again, it's not stock advice, but it's definitely an opinion. And we both came out here and gave you strong opinions on this particular sector that we both like and want to be investors in. But it definitely got really hot and it got rode a long time. Now it's time for it to cool off potentially.
Yes. And on those words, we're going to cut it off right here. Guys, we'll see you later. Live, love, laugh, and learn.